Back, everyone. Next, we have Nascent Biotech. It trades on the OTCQB under the symbol NBIO and is a phase 2 clinical stage biotech company pioneering the development of human monoclonal antibodies to be used in the treatment of various cancers, helping people worldwide. Please welcome as President and CEO, Sean Carrick. Welcome, Sean.
Hi, Anna. Thank you. I just wanted to start out and just give you a disclaimer that what we're discussing are forward-looking statements and that we fully expect to follow the timelines and the inflection points. There's no guarantee of outcomes and results.
Thank you for that, Sean. Talk a little bit about the history. There's quite the history of Nascent Biotech from inception to your current inflection point.
So Nascent is not a new company. This antibody was taken from a researcher's wife at University of California, San Diego, which is where most biotech originated from. And she presented with stage 4 cervical cancer. And it was taken from her, extracted from her, and tested against various cancers, brain cancer being one of them. And once they saw that they identified the target that it was binding to. The target is ectodomain vimentin, or you'll hear it by the NIH will refer to it as cell surface vimentin. It's essentially the same target. So it was taken back to Japan for continued development. They did a phase 1 and a phase 2, and then they did an expansion phase in phase 2. It was shown to be very biologically active in brain cancer. And it was recommended for phase 3 by the Ministry of Health and Welfare in Japan. And the Ministry of Health and Welfare, Dr. Hagawara had passed away at that time. So it sat dormant for several years, and then it was brought back to the United States, where it was re-engineered into a different expression system called the CHO cell line. And we began all over in the U.S. Catalent did the manufacturing. We did all of our preclinical work. We were cleared to begin phase 1. We performed phase 1, completed the phase 1 about a year ago, just under a year ago. And we were cleared to begin phase 2, which brings us up to where we are today.
Fantastic. So why brain cancer? And can other cancers be potentially treated?
So in Japan and in the US, we did what's called IHC staining, or immunohistochemistry staining. And our target was shown, and binding was shown to the target in virtually every hard tumor cancer. So we proceeded with brain cancer because there was already a study completed in Japan with brain cancer. And we already had a pathway for success. It was shown to be very biologically active. So yes, when we go into phase 2, we expect to open a second study to run parallel, expanded access, so we can provide it to patients with other types of cancers who would want to try it and see if it is effective. And it also gives us data in other directions to go for other cancers.
And talk a little bit more about that. You mentioned the previous Japanese studies that were performed on the recent phase 1 brain cancer clinical trial Nascent completed. Can you explain more? Sure.
So in Japan, there were 249 patients treated, and it was published in the outcomes were published in 6 peer-reviewed journals. And this slide here shows some of the outcomes. And the reason this is relevant still is we started to see the same pattern in our phase 1. We've not gotten a phase 2 yet, so it's a little premature, but we did see a lot of the consistencies that they saw in Japan, especially from a safety standpoint, which our phase 1 and most phase 1s focus on safety. But as you see here, in 3 patients selected from the phase 2 in Japan, you had tumor shrinkage in each one of the patients, but that doesn't tell the whole story. In this 7-year-old child, she had 80% tumor shrinkage at 6 months. but her quality of life significantly improved from reduced limb paralysis and dysphagia. And then the second patient had a glioblastoma. He had 38% tumor shrinkage at 10 months, and his gait improved significantly, and his sensory aphasia and cognitive function all improved. So it tells a much bigger story. And when you continue on to our phase 1 study, this is the poster that we presented at the 2023 ASCO meeting, summarizing our phase 1. Just to break it down, we had 15 patients treated. It was a triple cohort study design, and the dosing range was 1.6 milligrams per kilogram of body mass, and it went to 4.8, 8.0, 12.0, and 16.2 milligrams per kilograms of body mass. The study was expandable to 42 patients, meaning you would have to do 3 patients against each allergic reaction, but we didn't have any. So we got through with just 15 patients. The eligibility criteria, they had to be older than 18. The cancer had to be histologically confirmed as a CNS cancer. They had to be, the key exclusion criteria is they had to be 28 days removed from cytotoxic therapy or less than 14 days removed from non-cytotoxic investigational agent. So that's the inclusion, exclusion, and the dose escalation. The anti-tumor effect is mainly mediated by antibody-dependent cellular cytotoxicity, ADCC, which is common in this type of treatment. And the NIH has even verified that our target, ectodomain vimentin, is an ideal target because it's expressed on the surface of tumor cells and is significantly overexpressed in glioblastomas. And in the next slide, you'll see this is one of our patients. Now, all told, this patient had the best outcome, but again, the purpose of the study was to establish safety. She had presented with 2 lesions. The first lesion at 2 months post-treatment had shrunk by 28%. The second lesion had shrunk at 2 months by nearly 67%. And at 13 months post-treatment, this patient was at about 41% shrinkage in the first tumor and 98% in the second tumor. And that tumor remained shrunk until we ran out of usable product to give to the patient, usable medicine. So as long as she stayed on it, the tumor stayed at bay. And the conclusions of our phase 1 study is that the study again evaluated safety of prytumumab for brain tumor patients. There were no grade 3 or 4 toxicities related to the drug. There were no serious adverse events related to the drug. The results of the phase 1 showed that as a single agent, prytumumab proved to be very safe. Also in the study, our maximum feasible dose was 16.2 mg per kg every 7 days. Just as a caveat, our PK studies show that that's actually, you can move that out to every 12 and a half days, so every other week. And the drug levels were similar range to other antibodies like Humira and Avastin. So moving forward with specifically to the drug, the phase 2 studies have been planned. They've been submitted to the FDA and we've been cleared to begin phase 2. The study design is going to be as a monotherapy and a combination with chemotherapy. There'll be another combination with checkpoint inhibitors, and those are all recurrent gliomas. Excuse me. And a fourth arm will be upfront prior to chemoradiation in newly diagnosed gliomas. So that's a high level of the phase 2 study design.
Wonderful. How powerful this is. Sean, expand on the potential to treat other horrific cancer types with prytumumab, pancreatic cancer, colon, breast, lung, so much possibilities here.
So we actually have orphan drug designation in pancreatic cancer as well as brain cancer. And the original focus of the company was to treat unmet cancer treatment needs. So pancreatic is another direction that we plan to go shortly. And we think it's a good market because it's an unmet need, but it just keeps growing, and it's growing domestically and it's growing internationally, and it continues to present a need for effective outcomes. In our IHC staining, we were able to see that our target is expressed 3 times more in pancreatic cancer than it is in brain cancer. So that's what drove the decision to go and apply for orphan drug designation for pancreatic cancer as well. As you can see from Fortune Business Insights, in 2021, the spend was $2.15 billion, and it grew to $2.48 by 2022. But by 2029, that spend is supposed to go up to $6.85. So there's a lot of attention, and it's a growing cancer concern. So we feel like we can have an impact in it just based off of our preclinical work. Another focus, and both of these are going to get addressed in our expanded access trial that we plan to open. But colon cancer is a very large market, and it is growing aggressively right now. And colon cancer, we think as a management team and as a research team, needs additional therapeutics. There's been a lot invested into study diagnostics. We feel like we can participate and provide an option for these patients. So we want to focus on digestive cancers in the expanded access trial, in addition to other cancers, but these seem to be the growing markets, at least at present.
And talk a little bit about your plan going forward.
So our plan going forward is we hope to get our manufacturing run done by the end of the year so that we can open our phase 2 in Q1 of next year. It's going to be very much dependent on funding the company. By second quarter, we hope to open the expanded access trial, bringing in all comers. We want to open it up to other orphan designations, but focus on digestive cancers. I didn't mention, but the triple negative breast cancer is another cancer type that we are beginning to look at because it does express our target as well, and it's an underserved market also. So that'll be another focus of the expanded access trial. So that's kind of our timelines moving forward. We hope that this all falls into place and we can get it manufacturing completed by end of the year, begin brain cancer in Q1, and begin expanded access by Q2.
So talk a little bit about why this is a fantastic business opportunity with Nascent.
So number one, we've got a very accomplished management team that is directing this company and managing it forward. I've been in life sciences my entire career. I've never done anything else. Dr. Shore has led programs at Pfizer and Wytharis. He's our lead scientific advisor. Dr. Babbage has been in cancer research at UCSD. He's out on working independently now. He was also at the John Wayne Cancer Institute. Mr. Holden, our CFO, is just a wealth of experience on the public corporate financing side of the business. And Dr. Kesari is just a highly regarded neuro-oncologist who's really helped move this project along from a science research planning and a clinical planning. So it's being handled by a very strong management team, very accomplished management team. Our lead asset, Pritumumab, has been through phase 1 clinical research. It's been through phase 1 and a phase 2 in Japan. It's been shown to be safe and is cleared to begin phase 2 trials. The opportunity from an investment standpoint, it's significantly de-risked. Like I said, we've completed phase 1 in the U.S. With favorable results in 5 ascending cohorts. Phase 1 experience also demonstrated favorable outcome potential. Our manufacturing process is proven. We did a full manufacturing run in order to do our phase 1. We're getting ready to do a second manufacturing run. The safety's been validated in both humans and previously in animals. If you just look at our orphan drug markets, our market's at about 250,000 patients annually, newly diagnosed patients between brain cancer, metastatic brain cancer, and pancreatic cancers. We think that the opportunity, and we hope to prove it out in the expanded access trial for other types of cancers, could be significant and help millions and millions of people. And last but not least, from a business standpoint, we have been fully reporting for 10 years. We're on the OTCQB, as you mentioned. Fully reporting, you can go to sec.gov and look at all of our annual audits and look at all of our filings, Qs, Ks, all of the filings. And we've been late only, we've never been late in our filings outside of applying for an extension. That's the only time we've ever been late on our filings, and they were for good reason.
Well, Sean, thank you so much. We do have time for some questions from our viewers. So you ready to jump in on that?
Sure.
So Randy says, with the success of Wegovy and his understanding they're experiencing production issues to cover requests, could this be a golden opportunity for you? All right. Sorry, let me move on to a different question. Moshe asks about a timeline and any milestones to phase 3. Can you talk about that?
So we've got to do phase 2, and this gets into regulatory strategy, and it's really dependent on the FDA, how they view your program. So we hope to apply for and successfully receive accelerated status with the FDA, and maybe, if we're really fortunate, get breakthrough designation if the outcomes are significantly better than standard of care. We can apply for that. There's no guarantee for that, and I'm always hesitant to talk about it because I never want it to be an expectation, but it's a strategy companies look to.
And so a few questions about the technology. I'll try to combine a few of them, but Caleb asks, when dealing with brain cancer, would right to try apply here? And has anybody used it in that matter? If so, what are the results?
So yes, right to try does, this would fall into that. It's my understanding that right to try, you have to have completed phase 1 and established safety. And after that, patients can request it for right to try. And I don't think it has to be brain cancer. It can be any type of cancer, which is really driving our, we've not done that, by the way, for right to try, but it's driving our decision to open an expanded access trial and open this to all types of cancer patients.
And Junior says, so after shrinkage of the tumor, what percentage reoccurred or reversed?
So that's a really good question. So the one patient that I showed you, as long as she was on drug, the tumor stage shrunk. We had 3 or 4 patients in the study that the tumor shrunk, but then at the second MRI, it actually started to grow again. And we were unable to determine at that time whether or not, and it was because of the study design, we didn't look into it, but there was a lot of people involved in the study who thought it was pseudoprogression and not actually tumor growth. Pseudoprogression is typically a non-tumor growth increase in the size of the tumor because of edema. Edema follows any type of any type of immune response. So in phase 2, we're going to require that patients stay on the drug for 6 months so we can determine whether or not it's pseudoprogression or actual tumor growth.
And Yael asks if your treatment works in conjunction with chemo. Does it reduce the amount of chemo needed?
So in phase 1, they had to be 28 days off of chemo before they could take our drugs. So we did not do any combination cohorts in phase 1. In phase 2, we will have an arm of the study that is a combination therapy with Timidar, which is the chemo of choice for brain cancer. So we hope to see synergistic effects with them, but we've just not tested it yet.
And Antonio asks, how much manufacturing happens in-house? Do you need a major to step in? We outsource all manufacturing. We don't do any in-house. It's a big endeavor to do it, and there's a lot of companies that already provide that service. And Aiden asks if you can estimate any dilution from capital raises to get you to production or distribution, and how much cash will be needed.
So the cash needed to do a manufacturing run and perform phase 2, we need right around $13 million to do it. And about 4.25 of that will be for manufacturing. The patients will be on the drug a lot longer in phase 2. As I mentioned, they'll be on it for 6 months, where in phase 1, they only needed to be on it for 30 days to establish safety. So $4.25 million of that is just for manufacturing, and then all the stability testing and potency testing. The remaining monies will be used purely for the trial itself, which is 80 patients in total.
Wonderful. Well, this has been a really informative presentation. What closing remarks do you have for our viewers today?
I just like to ask your viewers to continue to watch the company. If you feel motivated, please reach out to us to make an investment in the company. This is a very important drug that in 2 different studies have shown it to be very, very safe and shrink tumors in a cancer type that is very challenging to treat. We've been able to shrink tumors in 2 different settings. We're excited to get into phase 2, but we do need investment dollars to come in to get into phase 2.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Sean, and we look forward to having you back again in the future with some more updates.
Thank you, Anna. I appreciate your time.
All right, everyone, stay with us. We'll be right back with our next presenter.